Funny doggy. Wait, what are you guys doing here? Oh shoot, the review! Funding for Shavuos is provided by Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. Sorry, I've just been so caught up in Pikmin 4 that I forgot I had to make another video this month. It's just so good. But I need more time to soak it all in before I can make a video on it. Did anything else release on July 21st that I could review? Oh hey, there are two completely unrelated movies that happened to release on the same day. And I saw both of them, so I could conveniently review them both in the same video. I know that sounds crazy, and I'm probably the only person to ever associate these two movies together, but hopefully you'll bear with me and just accept that. So, Pikmin 4, Oppenheimer is a 2023 biographical thriller film written and directed by Christopher Nolan. Yeah, I think that says it all, doesn't it? This is a towering achievement of a film. In my opinion, Nolan's best since Inception. It's also quite funny how the popularity of the director and the Barbenheimer trend are making general audiences talk about it this much. Because it is 100% a prestigious drama that doesn't resemble a typical summer blockbuster in the slightest. It is 3 straight hours of guys talking in rooms, and then there's 10 minutes where a bomb goes off. It's kind of insane and also encouraging that something so mature and grounded is not only getting such a wide release, but also a ton of interest from the general public. Maybe cinema isn't dead, wow. But yeah, I'm honestly kind of overwhelmed by this movie. It's one of the most unique biopics I've ever seen. Largely because I feel like I came out of it knowing less about Oppenheimer as a person. See, Nolan employed this technique where some of the movie's in color and other parts are in black and white. The color scenes are meant to represent Oppenheimer's subjective perspective, while the black and white scenes are what objectively happened. And I feel like there are noticeable differences in Cillian Murphy's performances depending on if there's color or not. He seems colder, more stoic and distant when observed in the third person. And it makes you wonder if you can trust how he was portrayed in the subjective scenes. And this is the point. Nolan has gone on record stating that Oppenheimer is his most ambiguous and paradoxical character to date. I can't decide to what extent he regrets his creation, if he feels regret over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or if he only cares about the precedent it sets for the future, whether he subconsciously enjoys the attention and fame it brought him, or whether the character who claimed that is just 100% full of shit. It's such a compelling and murky central character, brought to life with a solid lead performance. I never rooted for him, but I was always fascinated by him. And keeping so much of his nature ambiguous is so much more interesting than just making a standard biopic. Speaking of not making a standard biopic, Nolan plays with time a lot in this and goes back and forth between different time periods. He can't help himself, it's his bread and butter. And while it starts out difficult to wrap your head around when the scenes take place relative to each other, it becomes mostly straightforward as the film goes on, and it pays off narratively in really engaging ways. For example, it leads to an interesting development regarding one of the characters, which I won't get into here. I mean, it's not a spoiler if you know the full history of Oppenheimer's life, but I didn't, and I'm glad because it led to a good-ass twist villain reveal. Yeah, didn't think I'd be saying that about a prestigious adult drama. The cast is also uniformly excellent, and I was shocked by just how extensive it was. Like, Nolan deadass booked every white guy in Hollywood for this movie. Matt Damon, Polka Dot Man, fake Han Solo, Harry Osborn from Amazing Spider-Man 2, the director of Artemis Fowl and Nothing Else of Note, the titular boy from The Boys, motherfucking Roderick, and my king, the one and only Josh Peck. How come there's a character named Nichols in this movie, but they didn't get Josh Peck to play him? Oh well, at least Josh got to press the red button during the nuke test. That was pretty funny. I think Josh Peck should just be in every prestigious drama from now on. Emily Blunt was great, and while I was initially dissatisfied with her character suddenly being a drunk bad mother with no build-up to that, I realized that the whole point is that this was Oppenheimer's perspective. So of course he wouldn't see the reasons she was suffering and drinking. He was only focused on the bomb. That's actually really clever. Nolan still isn't beating the doesn't know how to write women allegations, but at least this time there's an in-movie excuse for why his women are underwritten. I don't know. Rami Malek served. I like how it's unclear why he's playing this random background character with no lines. Then by the end you're like, oh yeah, Slay Queen. A lot of people are extremely impressed with Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in this movie, saying he should be the frontrunner for Best Supporting Actor. And like, he's good. I don't know. He has a scene where he yells, so that's obviously Oscar-worthy. But honestly, I feel like people are mostly just impressed that he's not playing Tony Stark for once, and overhyping his performance a little bit as a result. He certainly deserves a nomination, but it's not anything mind-blowing. You know what is mind-blowing though? The score. Oh my god, did Ludwig Göransson bring it! The other Best Original Score nominees might as well not even show up to the Oscars. He has this in the bag. The music makes everything feel 10 times more intense, tragic, haunting, ethereal. All the adjectives in the world are not enough to describe this truly insane score. I was also surprised with the last hour of this movie, in a good way. I mean, I feel like most of us just assumed where the story was gonna end, and most of us are dead wrong. That last hour almost feels like a completely different movie to much of the first two, enhancing it by factoring in themes of mistrust, ego, jealousy, the influence that stupid McCarthy had over the country. The villain is motivated to do what he does because he assumes Oppenheimer was talking shit about him, without realizing that the concerns on Oppenheimer's mind are far bigger than this small, petty guy could comprehend. It's a wild commentary on how meaningless we all are in the grand scheme of things, and how the creation of these horrific monstrosities forever changed our species. And you feel the terror. I was shaking in my seat during the intense testing scene and the speech Oppenheimer gave, where expert direction and editing showcased the vivid horrors he now had to grapple with mentally. Just what a movie. With that said, there are some things I didn't care for. It's 3 damn hours, and while most of it held my attention incredibly well, I started to mentally dip towards the middle when they were working on the bomb. It became very repetitive, and you could have shaved a bit of it off. Otherwise, the pacing was slow, but deliberate and well done. This was the only part I found a little bit too slow and uninteresting. And the movie is really dense. I mean, there are so many characters and plot threads in this thing, a lot of which is presented out of order, that it can get a bit overwhelming. But I'm sure a second watch would somewhat alleviate that issue. Not that I'll be doing one for a while, because man, this movie is long and it feels it. Not all of it worked for me, but most of it worked wonders. It feels like the perfect script and perfect direction to capture the weight of this story and the man at its center. It's not a perfect movie, but it's hard to think of one that rocked me to my core to this extent with its horrific depiction of what humanity is capable of. 9 out of 10. I like the part where they dropped the atomic bomb on the bulborbs. That was pretty epic. Speaking of epic, did you know you can use Squarespace to build a website to catalog all the creatures in Pikmin? It's almost like an encyclopedia for Pikmin or something like that. I wish there was a better word for that. Oh well, let's talk about Squarespace now. Squarespace is an amazing online website builder that enables you to create beautiful websites for your business or personal hobby. Create your own online store to sell your products. Whether they be physical, digital, or service products, you better believe Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online. Hop on in with one of their professional website templates, with designs for every category and use case. Then make it your own by customizing the design, updating content, and adding whichever features you need. Any Squarespace template can do anything you want, allowing your idea, brand, or business to stand out. And on any device, too. You can even host video content using Squarespace, organizing your video library, showing off your content on beautiful video pages, and selling access to exclusive videos with member areas. The possibilities are near limitless. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/ShayFrillis to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Oh hey, I thought of a really good word for a Pikmin encyclopedia. A Pictionary. Nah, that one's taken, I think. Let's talk about Barbie now.
I'm a Barbie girl.
Barbie has been my most anticipated movie of 2023 for over a year now. Greta Gerwig has never steered me wrong. Lady Bird is one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time. And Little Women is also excellent. Plus, the trailers. I mean, are you looking at this shit? Of course you are. Everyone's been pumped for this movie for so long now. Did it disappoint? Honestly, I was kind of expecting it to, because how could anything live up to the level of hype this movie generated? So ultimately, I have to say that after watching it, it did live up to the hype. Oh my god, this is legitimately my favorite movie of the year so far. It's just everything, man. The way it looks, its sense of humor, the performances, the direction, the insane path the story takes. Just how is this a real movie? There wasn't a single minute where I wasn't having a good time. It's just Alan? Michael Cera as Alan? This is the most I've liked him in anything in like 10 years, TBH. I am obsessed with Alan. He is so damn funny in this, and the casting is so perfect. All the casting is so perfect. They got the literally me guy to play Ken. And given his role in the story, I feel like a lot of dudes are gonna be saying, wow, he's literally me after watching this, which is kind of alarming. But besides that, this is easily his best performance since the Papyrus sketch on SNL. Do I think he's worthy of being the best supporting actor frontrunner? Also no, but please God make it happen, it would be so funny. Gosling and Downey Jr. should both be nominated, but if they're really the two frontrunners, we gotta give it to the performer of the greatest 11th hour power ballad in the history of cinema. I'll talk about that later though. There are still other people in this movie besides literally me and actually me. Margot Robbie is literally the perfect Barbie. It's crazy how we were all there for her huge debut in Wolf of Wall Street 10 years ago. And since then, we've got to see her explode in popularity and establish herself as a bona fide movie star. There's a merman played by... and then just play the John Cena thing. John Cena! Will Ferrell was hilarious. It's always kind of a crapshoot if his brand of comedy will work for me in a movie or not, but his antics and delivery were absolutely hysterical here. America Ferrera is in this, haven't seen her in a while, and she gives this insanely good monologue about all the pratfalls and contradictions of womanhood. It's a great moment, and that's something we should probably talk about. Barbie is a movie with a lot to say about gender and the patriarchy. Oh no, it got political, oh no. That's it, I'm not watching this woke crap. I'm gonna watch Oppenheimer, which is not political whatsoever and does not paint America in an unflattering light. It's just a movie about a guy who builds a bomb and then his country drops it on innocent civilians. What's political about that? But this movie, it made fun of men. Boo-hoo! Oh, boo-hoo! So, is this movie's discussion of feminism and the patriarchy subtle? No, not at all. And even if you're pro-feminism, I can totally understand you getting annoyed by how much it really hammers these points in. But, hear me out. The fact that it's so unsubtle isn't primarily to get its messages through to the audience, it's to serve this particular story and these particular characters. Everyone in Barbie Land is an idiot airhead. All the Barbies and Kens are completely detached from reality, which is why it's so easy for them all to be completely taken in by laughably unsubtle patriarchal ideas. This then leads to America Ferrera's character snapping the Barbies out of it with unsubtle and in-your-face feminist talking points. It's simply a funny premise that uses the battle between these ideologies as a way of tapping into some truly unhinged and delightful comedic potential. The Godfather and Pride and Prejudice gags, Will Ferrell's defense of a man being CEO of the Barbie Corporation, the fact that the third act boils down to making all the Kens get into this epic beachfront battle that was more intense than anything in Oppenheimer, which then culminates in an ethereal, bro-bonding, magical 11th hour power ballad with impeccable direction and choreography. Also, they forget to vote to change the Barbie Land Constitution. It's just like, how do you come up with that? It's so funny and so imaginative. Again, there were multiple points where I was just in shock that this was a real movie. Aside from a select handful of animated films, movies these days just aren't fun and creative on this level anymore. They don't look like this. They don't go in insane, unexpected directions like this. They don't have Michael Cera beating the shit out of a dozen construction workers for no real reason. It was just a breath of fresh air and another feather in the insanely prestigious hats of Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, who knocked this story out of the park. I don't consider Barbie a groundbreaking feminist masterpiece, but I don't really think it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be one of the most inventive comedies of the year. One that works both as a love letter to and deconstruction of Barbie as a concept, allowing people who love or hate Barbie to get something out of it. And to its credit as a movie with something to say, I think there are actually some clever, subtle messages buried underneath the more obvious ones. Like how Ken, purposeless and adrift, clings to the patriarchy and gets indoctrinated by it. It reminds me of how kids, left to their own devices, can get sucked down the alt-right pipeline if they're not instructed that such chicanery is nonsense. And it's never too late for these kids, or Ken, to realize their mistake. I love the fact that he gets redeemed. I love the fact that Barbie actually apologizes to him for ignoring him before, which kind of sent him on this path. I don't know how you can possibly think this story is anti-men when it gives us such a compelling portrait of how isolating manhood can be, and ultimately ends with the Kens finding fulfillment in being their own people instead of existing in the orbit of Barbie. Plus, they're all given the funniest jokes and most epic moments in the movie. Holy shit, that reminds me, I still need to talk about I'm Just Ken. Not only an earworm that I've been listening to non-stop here in my Pikmin playing cave, but also so imaginatively staged, so perfectly integrated into the final battle, so hilarious and yet oddly heartwarming as an affirmation of the bond between bros. Kind of a villain song, but also kinda not. It's just Ken, man! And ultimately, I think a lot of women are really gonna connect with Barbie's struggle to just exist in spite of everything that makes being a woman hard. I really love the conclusion of this movie, and I may have teared up in one of the final scenes, but you didn't hear that from me. But yeah, I'd say definitely seek out some female perspectives on this movie and the stuff it has to say about womanhood. That's what I'm gonna do. All I can say is, it's not an anti-man movie. It's about the immense joy of learning to love your homies and be confident in yourself. Also, it's extremely funny, extremely well directed, it has extremely wonderful sets, and extremely vivid costumes. I think it's every bit as worthy of a Best Picture nomination as Oppenheimer, on top of a handful of other nominations. But ultimately, who really cares what the Academy thinks? All that matters is that I loved just about every minute of it. I was never not having fun while watching it, I can't stop thinking about it, and I really racked my brain trying to come up with a single reason to not give it a 10 out of 10. But I'm gonna be honest, I got nothing. Oh, but it's a toy commercial. Yeah, and so is the Lego movie. What's your damn point? 10 out of 10. Truly peak cinema. Also, if you seriously get upset that I rated it higher than Oppenheimer, may I remind you that these are two completely non-comparable movies? Like, that was the whole point of the Barbenheimer trend. I had a couple of issues with Oppenheimer that prevented it from being the best possible 3-hour biographical thriller film it could possibly be in my eyes. Whereas Barbie hit all of the beats I wanted for a fantasy comedy film. Compare these movies to other films in their genre, because trying to compare them to each other means nothing. This is the same thing I went over when I reviewed Sonic 2 and Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's like, some films are more ambitious than others, but as a result, they sometimes don't live up to said ambitions. That doesn't make them better or worse than less ambitious films that, as a result of their lower goals, hit all of those ambitions. Pointing out that a critic rated a prestigious film lower than a superhero blockbuster is not the gotcha you think it is, because those films aren't comparable. And yet, the number score system is trying to trick you into thinking they are. Part of me just wants to do away with number scores entirely, since not having them actually forces you to focus on what the reviewer said in order to determine their actual opinion. But on the other hand, I don't know, it's pretty satisfying to slap a number on stuff. Just look at Pikmin 4. I beat it simultaneously as I was writing this review, and it's a 10 out of 10, you need to play it, oh my god. I still need to 100% it though, so it'll be a little while before I say more. But man, it's all I've been thinking about this past week. Aside from the horrifying implications of Oppenheimer and the insane glory of Michael Cera as Alan. Man, what a stacked weekend. Barbenheimer truly lived up to the hype. And really, isn't that what it's all about at the end of the day? 2 excellent movies and Pikmin from auteur directors that got people to support movie theaters as well as check out films outside their usual interest zone. It warms my heart that original films, even one that's based on a massive IP, can still make a ton of money if you advertise them well and drum up interest. The fact that people spent 3 hours in a theater watching a movie that's just dudes talking is so cool. The fact that so many women got to see themselves in a film based on an iconic part of their childhood is so cool. The fact that these 2 films coming out on the same weekend resulted in both of them getting boatloads of cash rather than cutting into each other's box office intake is just so incredible. The future of cinema is looking bright. As soon as these fucking degenerate studios and CEOs decide to pay their writers and actors the wage that their work is worth. Yeah, you think an AI could write something as darkly powerful as Oppenheimer or as funny and clever as Barbie? all the way off. Writers make that shit happen. Oh, but the actors are billionaires. Do you seriously think Connor Swindles, the guy who played Aaron Dinkins, a Mattel intern in Barbie, is a billionaire? This is for the actors who don't get paid boatloads of money to be in movies. I figure if I'm still gonna do my job as a critic, which SAG has stated is okay, the least I can do is help make sure the people who put great art like Barbie and Oppenheimer out into the world are getting a fair wage. So yeah, f these guys. Bob Iger especially, because he also greenlit Ralph Breaks the Internet. I'm just kidding. F all of them equally. Okay, back to playing me Pikmin. Good night, Tri-State area.